them, which I mean, I didn't watch too much of it, but when I did watch it, it definitely surprised me by how many teams or how close the skill gap is between what we call minor regions and what we call major regions. There really is no team that is an underdog at this point. Any team that performs good on the day can be a top 5 team in the world, and most of them can win these entire big tournaments. So
Sure. I mean, like historically, like OCE has been like they're just getting a participation trophy, right? Like,
yeah,
and then like in the beginning of like Sam coming into the scene, it was kind of the same way, and like they just weren't on the same level.
yeah,
Obviously, Furia having gone an A, but I mean, dude, I mean, you look at these teams now, and like you said, on the day of, it's whoever shows up can take it,
yeah.
from any one of these teams. Me personally, dude, I'm super happy that Genji took the championship for the fall major, dude. I mean, I am super hype about that team. I always liked Noli as a player. Appjack is my favorite pro, and it's good to see Chronic where he's at now, based on like where he was at like a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, Chronic's story is kind of amazing. He was stuck in the bubble scene for probably years. I think probably at least 2 years. And an org like Genji, who big org, they have a lot of South Korean org, have a lot of big teams. They come into Rocket League, they pick up this relatively, I wouldn't say washed, but just unknown North American bubble player. And to see him perform at the highest level and do good and be recognized for his play at the highest level is incredible. And a story I also want to highlight is what I saw. They got third, fourth, Team Secret, very, very unexpected because they weren't even doing the best in their own region in South America. I'd say that the club were doing better than them. There are other teams that were just doing better than them. But they come in here, they go 3-1 in the group stage. They beat teams like Space Station and Moist, especially, who Moist went to the grand finals. And then they come in and they beat Version 1, who, I mean, I would consider Version 1 to be the most consistent North American team just because they always perform. Maybe apart from FaZe Clan, I'd say that they're both probably neck and neck. And then they take it to Moist Esports. Don't expect it, but Moist Esports also had a really rough. They barely snuck into at 5th place. They snuck into this LAN, and they had a really good resurgence and made to the grand finals and almost won the entire tournament. So definitely, whoever plays better on the day, as long as you make it to the tournament, still have a chance at winning.
Absolutely. And like you were talking about, like with Chronic's story, it's not like he was just there and he's just getting carried by Jack and Noli. Like, I mean, he was a really strong force like on that team, and I think I wouldn't call him like a carry, but I mean, he was the crucial part of that team that like without, I think if you replace Chronic with a different player in the same like sort of like situation, I don't think that they have the same outcome of how that team works out playing against other top level teams like that. So I think that's truly amazing for them to pick up Chronic and do so well with him. I mean, this is your first like split with as a team, and for you to take that major just like first off like that, I mean that's awesome. And then with Noli and Jack having switched regions, why speaking on that, why did they switch from EU to NA? Like,
I mean, I believe that. I mean, from Apdac's point of view, he was on Dignitas for the entire season. Dignitas had a really good start to RLCS 21-22. They won, believe it was the first regional in like August of 2021. They made it to the fall major. They didn't do too well. I think they went 3-0 on the Swiss stage and then lost in top 8. And then after that, it was kind of just a slow decline. And then I guess Genji offered it to Nolly as well, so they just both moved. Yeah, I believe they were living in Toronto for the entire split, but incredible consistent. It was probably they were the most consistent team in North America. They got 2 grand finals experiences and a win, so like that's just really, really good. And they got the fall major win, of course. So I don't know why it happened, but I am happy that it happened, as it's making NA a region with much more depth than before.
dude, Kilo, what are your thoughts, man? Like, you keep up with RLCS and all that?
I do, and I wish FaZe did better. I just wish that they would take a win at some
Fourth,
point, man.
fourth killer. I believe
Fourth killer.
He's gotten fourth at like every single land.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Very
So,
unfortunate. Hopefully, at some point, maybe next split, maybe they'll take it home. Maybe they
Uh,
make some improvements and finally take it. Like,
maybe
they're
another
all good.
option.
Yeah.
Maybe
Or
another roster change.
hey, no.
First
That'd be
killer's gonna
like
start
the
picking people up
27th
anyway.
roster change. I don't think a 27th roster change would help too much, but
Yeah.
yeah, I really do think FaZe can take it home. They're my favorite team.
I feel like first has like fallen off like heavy, bro.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I used to think of him as like undoubtedly probably like the best player in the world. And I don't know necessarily that like he's fallen off. I just think maybe the competition has risen up to his level and he doesn't have that same edge that he had like in like RLCSX or like even last season. I don't know. He just doesn't seem to have near big as an impact on the field as what I'm used to seeing him have. I don't know. Maybe it's placebo of just watching FaZe constantly not clutch up. I don't know.
Could be.
I mean, I noticed that the first killer was considered probably the best player in North America for a year up to this point, but I think, as you said, NA is just getting more top tier players, and it's harder to get that same edge where you can determine yourself as so different from the pack. Because again, it's all about who performs better on the day, and not everybody has the pop off days they used to have. So I think it's just a good thing that we see NA has not one clear cut best player in the world, but I think that they might need a roster change to propel themselves forward. Basically, I mean, Frisco is known for kicking his teammates off when they don't perform, but if they do stick with this roster, I think they could do a lot of damage. But if Frisco is in that mindset where he needs to, make a roster change, then I don't think anything's going to stop him from actually making the roster change.
Just he's so much influence, bro. I don't. Who's letting this man run everything? He's just gonna start running through every single player, and then realize that the common denominator is him.
I mean, he's
You
the
know?
best player in the world.
And I genuinely believe like he was at one point. I don't know that I share that same thoughts now. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean,
and it sucks for me. Dude, I'm a huge G2 fanboy, dude. Like, I mean, the OG team of like my favorites was Crow, Rizzo, and JNaps. Like, dude, I just wanted to see them take it all. Like, and so many times. Dude, season nine, like, I still sit. I will die on the hill that season 9 G2 World Champions, like 100%.
I think that
They
as
were
well.
undoubtedly the best team in the world. Like,
I
nobody had
remember,
the counter yet
yeah.
for them.
I mean, season 9 G2, you gotta talk about the story of season 8, or actually season 7. You go back to season 7, they pick up Chicago. They had a really good run. They got second. I believe that, I don't know if you remember, but it was in Newark, New Jersey. Grand Finals, first game, they're up a goal. They don't drop the ball. They get scored on at 0 seconds, and after that, they just completely start losing. I believe that if they won that first game and they didn't get scored on at 0 seconds, they probably would have won season 7 in that Grand Finals. But they don't win there. Season 8. Actually, in the season 7 offseason, they're the best team in the world, undoubtedly. They should have won that one land. I think it was DreamHack Montreal, but the Peeps won that one. They lost the grand finals to an upset. And then season 8 comes around. They had a horrible season. They went like 2-5 at the end of league play. They dropped out of promotion relegation. They barely don't get relegated to RLRS. They come back for season 9 and they win the whole thing, but that's when COVID started, so no land there. So, I mean, G2 has definitely a turbulent road in RLCS. I think that especially in this tournament, they went 2-3. They barely didn't make it out of groups because they just had a really rough start. They had to pull off the reverse sweep, and they lost it by one game one game versus Moist in Game 5. So, I mean, G2, I think they have potential to be the best team in the world, but they also have the potential to be one of the worst teams in a tournament at the same time.
I think G2 is just so heavily momentum based that when they're on a roll, they are so hard to be stopped. But when they are in the dumps, dude, they look abysmally bad, dude. Like, I don't understand how they could, on so many occasions, look like you're like, dude, that is the best team in the world. Like that, those three are like the best Rocket League players that like are playing the game right now. And then like, literally, like the next big event, if you're like, why did those guys get an invite to this? Like,
yeah.
It looks like RLRS players like playing in.
That's been the whole talk of like APAC and especially James Cheese, who went 0-9. They didn't win a single game in this LAN. But I mean, if you look at the games individually, they had some tough competition. They're playing against KC, who they actually got perfect swept by in the first round. They play against Falcons, who they actually the last two games were 1-goal games, so it's a little bit better there. And the last round they got G2, who again still keeping it close. They had an overtime and they had a 1-goal game, so they're, I mean, able to score on the best teams in the world, but they're just not able to put up games or even series versus them. So you have to ask the question of like, will this region develop in time like the OCE region has, like with Power, and even with South America, they've developed in time. But regions like APAC, Sub-Saharan Africa, it's just might take a little bit longer for them to actually get up to pace with the higher level teams.
And that was the other thing about G2's like momentum. I think they got robbed at Worlds. I'm not gonna lie. I will say it was the best thing ever for like my first Rocket League LAN. I went to LA, and for G2 to take that, that was just like the most hype moment. Like this, like a picture perfect like memory like in my brain that will be there forever. But dude,
Yeah.
when G2 like came out on the stage, I don't know if you remember this, but like, dude, JNAPS was like in the zone. Like you could feel it. Every single one of them were like they were just like there, and you were like, dude, they are taking this. Like this is it. And then Atomic had that like headphone mishap.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, his headset wasn't working or something like that, and like literally there was a big countdown going on the screen, and then just like nothing, and you see some guy like scrambling, running under the stands to go get him a new headset, and I was like, dude, in that moment, I was like, it's chalked, it's done for, like it's over, like their momentum's gone, like they were ready like in the zone, and then it stopped, and then like there was I think a point in the series when they had I think they were like coming back in the game, or like they were like tied in the game and had some stupid like kickoff thing happen, and then just played horribly for the remainder of it. And it was like, again, it's momentum based, and that's the thing about momentum based teams is your momentum in the right direction is amazing, but your momentum in the wrong direction is going to be your downfall every single time.
Yeah.
What do you guys think NRG should do to become good again?
Dude, I don't know.
To become good again?
Yeah.
I think
They have been lacking.
They have been lacking for, it's coming up to a year now, because the first tournament they really lacked in was the Winter Major, because they didn't even make it to the stage, which I mean, everyone thought it was a fluke tournament, but they ended up really bombing out of every other tournament that year. So I think that what they have to do, I know there are rumors of Justin going to Furia.
Yep.
Which I knew that was something that could have happened. I don't think it's happening. The deal fell out, but
I think it's lost now. It's going to Furia.
It's lost now, but I think lost is going to Furia, yeah, from the club. But if they actually do want to win, I think, honestly, these players, they're kind of the last of the old generation. There's some players like JNAPS in it, but Squishy and Garrett especially have been there basically since day one. So if they want to keeping up with them, they have to put in basically more work than the younger players. But like they're older now at that point. They have different priorities in life at that point. So I think that it might have to require a roster change. And my first look would be Squishy. Just because Garrett G's a lot more consistent than Squishy, and he plays a bigger role in the team. Justin, you can't really replace him, so they're trying to replace their coach and stuff like that. But I think Squishy would probably be the first one I'd look to boot off the team.
Dude, that's kind of been like the biggest like difficulty, like understanding of like what has gone on has been the whole NRG situation. Because like you look like individually at those players, like every single one of them is like I would have in like my top 20 like in the world, like 100% probably, or at least okay, take away this last like year, right, and you have them like in the top of the world, like individually, like they're top tier players, but they just, I don't know like what it is, dude. They just have not been performing. But I think you're right, like, and I think that's something to speak on is I think there is a completely new generation of Rocket League pros that play the game so differently from what the earlier seasons. I mean, you just look at like the difference from like season 6 to now, like it's not even anywhere near the same. I mean, if you were to go like look at like the season 1 like World's Grand Finals, like you're like, dude, that's like plat level gameplay, like it's horrible. But even from like season 6, you'd say like, season 6 players are still like, dude, you have to be so good at the game to be winning that world championship. But like the difference nowadays is, I think the difference from like season 1 to season 6 is like similar to the difference from like season 6 to now. Like, and I think it's changed so much, and I think that's an issue with a lot of like pros that have been in the scene a long time is they get complacent like what has worked for them, and there's a point where you're not that guy anymore. And I mean,
Yeah.
you look at like Lethamyr. Lethamyr was like never a bad player. Was always a decent, consistent player in the pro scene. But like, he's like 30 now. Like, he can't
Yeah.
do the stuff that these new kids, even like 14-year-olds that are like pooping on everybody in 1v1s. Like, it just, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, it's just that it's a matter of what I think is just that there's more passion for the game because there's less experience with it, and there's more free time on the hands because these younger players, especially, it just comes down, you don't have to work, you don't have to do many things, especially some more worries of the mind, especially where you can't focus your attention fully on what you should be doing on or what you want to be doing, which is the game. So no matter how hard they try, they just can't get that edge back that they used to have when they were younger. And by younger, I mean like Rocket League has a very, very young age gap, or like the time from time like starting to play from time to retire. Because you look at a esport like CS:GO, where there's pros like at the top of their game at like 32 years old. Like they are very, very older compared to maybe the top pros are 23, 24 years old. So it's just a different aspect to the game. I've never I've noticed that, but it's never really been something that you need to look at. But it's just always been something that's been there. So.
I think with that, we'll move on to our esports topic, like in general. I don't know how much you guys